Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Streaming live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com, on YouTube, on Twitch, and sometimes on Facebook, but not today. Oh, man, I can't. And, of course, across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator. Good morning, and how are you? You ready to jump in and jump on board and get it all done? Today on the program is, of course, it's Tuesday, and that means the weekly top three. The top three things, the top three items that you should be paying attention to and following and doing all that kind of stuff. So we're appreciative and we're grateful for you to come on board and join us. Brad Keithley from Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets is going to be joining us first things first here as soon as we get done with just a few, well, maybe just one headline. I don't know if it's a few or if it's one. I think it's probably going to be just one. And so we're going to talk with Brad Keithley, and we're going to get into that weekly top three, including some of the new polling that shows how the races for governor and U.S. Senator and U.S. House of Representative Congress critter is going to be shaping up, and what does it mean? So we're going to do that. Then we're going to talk about the Willow project. What are the next steps there? And then how Bill Walker is not the right choice for Alaska and why. And it's going to be good stuff. Then in hour two, we're going to be talking with Chris Story, the man from Homer, who is going to be joining us and giving us our weekly life coaching lesson as well. We're going to be hanging out with him, and we'll be enjoying ourselves. That'll be fun stuff. We'll get that PMA boost that we've been so needing over on a weekly basis. And then we'll take some calls or do whatever. Tomorrow on the program, let me get ready for this. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to be joined by Kelly Shibaka. Kelly Shibaka, candidate for Senate, and we'll talk with her in hour two on the program tomorrow. Still working on getting a couple other guests laid by on this week. On Friday, Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine is going to come in and do some analysis of the SCOTUS decision on firearms in regards to New York State and what the response has been from various states around the country who have been affected by the SCOTUS decision with their concealed carry permit schemes. And that should be a fun discussion coming up on the program on Friday. So we've already got some stuff lined up, and it's gonna be a fun time. So you want to join us in the chat room this morning? The chat room is available over on YouTube this morning. No Facebook. Facebook is well, I don't know. I actually started about 5 minutes early this morning trying to make sure that we got up on Facebook, and it just never popped up. So I don't know. I restarted the stream like 5 or 6 times this morning. So when they don't cooperate, you just move on. So I'm just letting you know that if you try to reach me on Facebook this morning, it'll be a little tough. Go ahead and reach out to us on YouTube. All right, so the headlines. The headlines, what are the headlines? Well, I was going to talk about this one about Yellowstone. One of the actresses on Yellowstone is now been charged with workers' compensation fraud. And I was only interested because this actress was very outspoken about a lot of things, and I just found it ironic that they were. We'll get into that later. Maybe we'll do that on Friday as an interesting sidebar to our entertainment report. But meanwhile, let's go over and take a look at this new poll that came out from the New York Times and Siena College. It turns out that according to this poll, that something like only 26% of Democrats actually support Joe Biden running for a second term. 64% of them just want a new candidate. They just want a new candidate. According to the Times, the voters have soured on his leadership. The poll also gives Biden a 33% job approval rating. There are some other polls that give him a rating as low as 29%. All of this comes from widespread concerns about the economy and inflation, and they've turned the national mood decidedly dark, said the Times. Both on Mr. Biden and on the trajectory of the nation, more than 3/4 of registered voters see the United States moving in the wrong direction. It's a pervasive sense of pessimism that spans every corner of the country, every age range and racial group, cities, suburbs, rural areas, as well as both political parties. Swing voters, now those who aren't registered with either major party, we like to call them independents, disapprove of Biden by more than 66%. Overall, it's the younger Democrats who are especially moody. The younger Democrats, some 94% of them under 30, say that they're done with Biden, and they basically want to see a different nominee. Now, they cited various different reasons. One of the biggest reasons in the question was his age, saying 33 years old, followed closely by unhappiness on how he was doing the job. And then about 1 in 8 Democrats just said they wanted somebody new. 1 in 10 said he was not progressive enough. So 10% said he wasn't going far enough to the left. And then smaller fractions expressed doubts about his ability to win and his mental acuity. Oh, man. Of those surveys, those registered voter surveys over at the New York Times, they gave Biden a slight edge over President Trump in a hypothetical 2024 rematch, 44 to 41%. But, who knows at this point. But Democrats, they're not on Joe Biden's team. Team Biden is breaking up. They're not having a good time. Well, and again, this goes back to what we were talking about just the other day, which was, I guess yesterday. It's the economy is stupid. That's what it's about. I mean, we can have a lot of demonstrations, and boy, we've had demonstrations across the country, over Roe v. Wade. We've had demonstrations over the whole January 6th thing. We've had this and that and the other thing. We've had a lot of hate and invective thrown back and forth. But at the end of the day, what people really care about is how are they going to put gas in the tanks of their car? How are they going to put food on their table? How are they going to make sure that they've got enough, heating oil or gas to heat their homes in the winter, in the cooler months, or enough electricity to run their air conditionings in the summer months? I mean, this is what they care about, is their day-to-day lives that have the things that have the most impact on what's going on with their family and around them. Most of the stuff that you see coming out of Washington, D.C. is pretty far removed from the average everyday life of you and me. I mean, we may be mad about something, but does it really affect us directly? If the answer is no, then more than likely we don't. I mean, we might be upset about it and we may want to see a change, but since it's not really affecting us directly, it's not consuming our average everyday thoughts. But when it comes to the economy, we see that every time we go to the grocery store, especially every time we fill up our vehicle, anytime that we get our paycheck and we look at the amount of taxes taken out of it and everything. Every time we get those things, we're like, oh, God, oh. You know what I mean? It is the economy stupid. And that's what this proves out. That President Biden, under his leadership and on his watch, now we can make arguments about what is, really what power the president really has and what effect he really has on certain things. But I think that here we are into year 2, going on to year 3 of the Biden administration, and he's got some culpability in some of the things that are going on with some of his policies. I think there's definitely some culpability there, and he's got to take a little bit of the responsibility for this. So as we see, as the economy continues to crater, he's going to have to own some of that. He's going to have to own it. That's the bottom line. And I think we're seeing exactly that in these approval ratings and the fact that only a quarter of Democrats want him to run for a second term. And well over 50%, 64% said they want a new candidate. Now it's been a while since you've seen something like that happen. In fact, the last time it was the economy stupid was Jimmy Carter. The same kind of situation. And so, he was not, necessarily a super popular, everybody was 100% behind him. But at this point, they may actually not even nominate him as, the machine might, but the people, the machine being the political machine, but the people may not be behind him. I mean, those are some alarming numbers. Less than 2 years into his term. Those are some alarming numbers. 29% job approval rating, only 26% support a second term, 64% want a new candidate. Oof. And those are his friends. Those are his friends, let alone those of us who are not a fan of President Biden. That's the bottom line there. All right, we got to fly here. We're going to be meeting with Brad Keithley here in just a moment for the weekly top 3. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more in just a mo. Don't go anywhere. The weekly top 3 up next.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break. Got to adjust something here. It's going to get crackly for just a hot second. There we go. That's a little better. How's that? That's a little better. Okay. It didn't even get crackly. That's good stuff right there. All right. Good morning. Hard to find us this morning. I actually posted a link on Facebook. It shouldn't have been that hard. It's a Facebook post right at the top of the page to let people know that no Facebook today. In fact, I have to laugh. I have to laugh because I went over to YouTube. I went over to YouTube, and I think I I was counting the number of short videos this morning. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm on my 5th new video. My 5th new video to try and I mean it's a hot mess, an absolute hot mess, trying to get the show to start this morning. I don't know what was happening. Don't know. Don't care. After 5 attempts, I started like 3 or 4 minutes early. After 3 or 4 attempts, at some point, you just got to be like, nope, sorry, not going to mess with it anymore. I don't know what the problem was, but here we are. We're in Facebook, and we're ready to go. Let's see. Good morning. Shared the Facebook post this morning, says Greg. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're ready to rock and roll. You guys know that if Facebook is not up and running, the first thing you do is check YouTube, right? That's the thing. Huge turnout for the fundraiser for Mike Shower last night. Well, that's good to know. I wanted to be there, but duty called. I had familial stuff that I needed to get into. All right. Let's see. Not as many comments as normal this morning, so we're gonna be fine. Let me get over to. Let me do this. Let me open that up right there. Let me get the meeting squared away. Let's see if we can get Brad Keithley on the line. Hello, computer. Hello. Okay, there we go. All right, I was getting worried for a second. It was not answering me. I better turn the volume down because usually Brad blows us away here. Let me see. Make sure that we'll get it all squared away. Oh, I already had Brad turned down a little bit. Let's see if he blows us out of our chair. Good morning, Brad. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
You turned me down before I even started.
Yeah, I tried because, I mean, every time Zoom has got a really good connection for the audio. It's like, hello, oh, look at you. Wait a second, and nobody else can see it. We've got to show, everybody's got to see what Brad's got in his hand. Look at that, Brad. Show that off. Show off that swag. There's Brad with his Common Sense Core mug. He's helping us produce the show. That's what we like there. So he's got his Common Sense Core mug this morning. Good for you. Look at you repping the show.
I had that laying out on the counter for like, how long has it been since I've had it? A week almost?
Yeah.
Right there, so I could grab it this morning.
Good. All right. Well, hold the line, Brad. We're going to dive into this here in just a minute. I'm dealing with a no Facebook issue this morning, so I don't know what the situation is, but we're going to figure it out. Okay, folks, anything else that we need to talk about here? Facebook banned you last Friday. They didn't ban me. I did get the warning. I'm incitement and violence for violating. I don't know what on earth we could have said that could be. I don't know. I think the gal that called in was upset about guns probably reported the show and said that it was doing something bad. Hey, ding. We're going to be jumping back into it with Brad Keithley. Hey, do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed and rang the bell on YouTube, would you do so? You'll get notifications when we go live then, and then you could choose Facebook or YouTube, whichever one's up. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay, ready to join in the fray here, get into the fracas with our friend Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. It is the weekly top 3 Brad joins us to talk about all the news that's fit print. And oh, wait a second, he's got I've got the new. He's got the new picture up here. He's sporting his brand new Common Sense Core mug. Look at you, Brad. I just want you to walk down the street with this, just like that. Just walk down the street holding the mug and pointing to it and saying, look at this. This is a sexy mug.
I'll do that for my new profile pic.
Yeah, exactly. His new profile pic is going to be my mug with him holding the mug. Brad's got some show swag here with the rest of us. And yesterday I got a big box. So I think I've got the second batch of all the swag, so we'll be breaking that up here in the next few days and figuring out where and who we got to deliver it to. So, all right. Well, good morning, my friend. How are you this fine and foggy and rainy and cloudy morning?
Michael, I'm doing great. Did you feel the rolling earthquake last night?
I apparently did not because I was asleep. When did it happen?
Oh, between 11 and 12. It woke me up. So.
Oh, was you? I was dead asleep. So I did wake up around midnight, but that was probably had nothing to do with the rolling. It had everything to do with the TB. So that's the tiny bladder. So we're going to, we'll get
that'll get you banned.
I know, exactly. Somebody will be upset about that. All right. Well, let's dive into the weekly top three. So we were chatting about this yesterday, getting ready for the show. And all I could think of was this is like the nightmare edition of the weekly top. There was just some things in there, and this was the first one. Number one is the one that really caught my attention, which was some of the new polling that is being looked at by the talking heads. Now, nobody really knows because ranked choice voting and everything else, it's really throwing things. But the polling that is coming out is well, it's not looking good if you'd like to see change is kind of what I'm coming at. Give me your thoughts on what's happening here for number one of the weekly top three.
Well, Ivan Moore from Alaska Research Survey is out with a new poll that has a write-up in the Juneau Empire. For those who are interested, the best description of it I've found is in the Juneau Empire. And it's an odd poll. It doesn't seem to really follow ranked choice voting. It looks like it at least in the governor's race, which I focused on most, it looks like it's the old system of, if everybody just voted once, what would the outcome be? And,
right.
And maybe what Ivan's doing is looking at the outcome of the August primary, which is when we do only vote once. But it's an interesting survey. It's got Murkowski ahead. And it's got Begich ahead in the congressional race. But the one that really grabbed my attention, frankly, was the governor's race. And
right.
here's the summary of it in the Empire article. It says Dunleavy appears to have an easy path to a second term in a three-way general election race and would still prevail if one of his two presumed opponents drops out to avoid a split vote. That's why I don't think this is really, reflecting ranked choice voting. Dunleavy is favored by 50.9%, with 26.4% of respondents supporting Les Guerra and 22.7% independent former Governor Bill Walker. And when you add those numbers up, they add up to 100. So he's somehow Charlie Pierce and Kirka and the other candidates aren't being reflected in this poll. But what really struck me, first of all, it struck me that Dunleavy was that far ahead.
Right.
It struck me that Charlie wasn't mentioned in the poll. And it struck me that Guerra and Walker were so close to each other. Guerra with 26.4 and Walker with 22.7. But it made me start to think about if this is, let's just take for a moment that this is a good estimate of where the election cycle is going. Made me start to think about what the heck is a Dunleavy second term going to look like. And the answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, so Jeff Landfield had a piece up in the Alaska landmine last week that, some will complain about, but I thought was a fairly good analysis of the Dunleavy administration. Dunleavy starts out in 2018 running for governor for a full PFD payback of the uncollected or undistributed portion of the PFD from prior years. And that doesn't pan out so well. And so,
Right.
So last year or the year before last, whichever it was, the year before last, I guess, Dunleavy comes out in favor of a POMV 50/50 PFD, which is a reduction off of a full statutory PFD, and sort of drops the discussion about the payback. And so, in one election cycle, in one 4-year term, we've gone from a full PFD with payback to a full PFD to a POMV 50/50 PFD. So what comfort does that give us when we start thinking about a Dunleavy second term? I mean, what's the guy running on now? Presumably he's running on POMV 50/50. Presumably he's running on still on that proposal, the PFD discount proposal. But he's still not saying, it's how he's still not explaining how we get there, because when you look out over the 10-year term, when you look out over the fiscals over the next 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, we go back into deficit as oil prices come down, as the futures market's telling us oil prices come down. So to get to even a POMV 50/50, we have to do one of two things. We have to either cut spending deeply, which he failed in 2019 and hasn't tried again, or we have to have substitute revenues. We have to have alternate revenues to fill the gap, and he's essentially refused to consider those. So how do we get there? I mean, there's no plan that he's outlined that tells us how we get from point A to point B. He's told us, I guess, where point B is, but there's no plan that tells us how we get from where we are now, from point A to point B.
Well, that's a typical politician response, isn't it? Here's what I'm going to give you. Never going to tell you how we're going to get there. Usually 9 times out of 10, you never hear exactly how they're going to get there. They just make the promises and they don't delineate all the steps along the way.
Well, it's not only not delineating all the steps, it's not delineating any of the steps. And we've got a situation where we haven't paid back the CBR yet. And when you add in a CBR repayment, which you really should when you look at the long-term fiscal outlook, the situation's even more challenging. It's even more in need of steps to get to where he's outlined now, where he's going on POMV 50/50. So this poll is interesting from a lot of perspectives. It's interesting that it's showing Dunleavy so far ahead of Walker and Guerra. And when you combine the two, Walker and Guerra combine the two, he's still ahead of their combined vote, less solidly, but nevertheless still ahead of the combined vote. So it's interesting from that standpoint, but it's interesting, to also confront what the heck this means over the long term. Confront, what a Dunleavy second term would be.
Well, I got to say that, I usually enjoy Ivan Moore's polls. I don't always, I don't agree with him politically or anything, but it's always an interesting insight. But the first thing that I thought of when I read this article in the Empire and took a look at it was that I was concerned about his methodology, specifically on the governor's race. I mean, this is it's really a 4 or a 5-way race, and he focuses only on the top 3 contenders. And so I don't know what questions were asked. I don't know what candidates were offered in the question, but it really starts to make me, ask, like, well, did he just throw Charlie and Kirka and the rest of them out? That Dunleavy, it's just assumed that he's going to be the single Republican candidate, or what? So that it really starts to make me question what was the methodology used in here, because usually, like I said, Ivan's pretty good about this.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how to read this at this point, and I think that's part of the problem with the whole ranked choice thing, is that anybody who's done analysis for a long time is still kind of stymied by the potentiality of spoilers and different things happening.
I agree. I agree that the methodology is screwy. And, as I say, when you add up all these votes, we add up all the percentages, they add up to 100% among the three of them. So he's done something odd with Kirka and Pierce. But the numbers are so big for Dunleavy, you at least have to have to think that directionally it might be going.
Yeah, I would.
In the right direction. And as I say, that makes me start to think about what are we really talking about in terms of a Dunleavy administration? I mean, yeah. Well, you and I have talked about this on the show before. It's a very poll-driven administration. So maybe the answer is whatever the polls tell you over the next 4 years.
Well, I think
that's where you'll go.
Another 4 years of weak leadership, I think, is what it would be. I mean, I think that would summate the whole thing of inept and weak leadership, lacking communication with the people who matter at this point, which would be the public. I mean, I would be very frustrated by that for sure. Especially since I think somebody like Charlie Pierce would make a much better governor in the long run. All right, well, that's number one. Number two is of course what's going to be happening with Willow, the decision in Willow. So give us a sketch real quick. We'll take about 60, 90 seconds, and then we'll jump into the break and come back.
Well, there are two big oil prospects up on the oil developments up on the slope that we need to be tracking as we consider where the North Slope oil development is going. One is the Pikka project, Oil Search's Pikka project. We've talked a lot about that on the show. The other is the Conoco Willow project. The Conoco Willow project is more advanced than Pikka in the sense that they've defined the project, they've applied for the permits, the approvals. They got the permits and approvals that they needed during the Trump administration, but then the court found those approvals rushed and deficient, and sent it back. It's been back before the Bureau of Land Management for a supplemental environmental impact statement. On Friday, the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, published the supplemental environmental impact statement, and I think it gives us some hint about where the Willow project is going. So we're going to talk about that after the break when we come back.
Brad Keithley is our guest, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. You can find him at ak4sb.com and, of course, on the Facebook and the Twitter and all the different not on Twitch. Brad's not on Twitch yet, but, we'll break him into it. We'll break him into it here eventually. All right, we got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. We will be back with more of the weekly top three right here on your home for common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we are in the break right now with Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. The owner of the most popular restaurant in Delta just put up a big Walker Drygas sign in his highway frontage property yesterday, says the Moose is Loose. I saw a couple pictures that were shared with me from Fairbanks for some of the local businesses with the same sign, which is a little surprising to me. Well, I mean, I guess surprising in one way, but at the same time, not surprising in others, because then you've got, you realize some of the names that are behind some of these businesses, and it really plays right back into what Brad's been talking about, which is the top 20% trying to protect their own. And Bill Walker is the epitome of crony capitalism, protecting the special interest, protecting the government spend for these companies that make big money. One of the businesses I'm thinking of specifically, big money off state contracts. And so not surprising that they would support the Walker Drygas team. I'll be honest with you, Brad, when I read these numbers, like you said, seeing that they were evenly split, and even Ivan Moore makes the comment that if one of the two dropped out, if Walker or if Les Guerra dropped out, Dunleavy would still win based on the numbers that he's showing. And again, questioning his methodology and where are the other candidates and everything else. But I mean, That is interesting to see. Now, the question is, can Charlie get enough recognition across the state right now to, to make a difference, to move the needle on that and get him into that top 4?
Well, I would, Charlie should have a pretty strong vote coming out of the Kenai. He ought to have a piece of the Mat-Su vote. It's really name recognition and getting around and getting his name out there. I'm just surprised by that Dunleavy number, and I'm surprised. Frankly, I guess two things surprise me. One is how high the Dunleavy number is, and how low the Walker number is. You would think for a former governor, and you would think for somebody who's, as you say, getting the top 20% support he's getting, you would think those numbers, you would think his number would be higher. I guess I'm a little bit encouraged that his number isn't very high. But Charlie, I think Charlie really needs to solidify the Kenai, and he needs to make inroads in the Mat-Su. He's got Edie as a lieutenant governor candidate who's up and seemingly very active up in the Mat-Su, and that ought to help. But he needs to be able to make some inroads into the Mat-Su, I think, to solidify that number 4 position. And once he gets the number 4 position, once he's on the dais as one of those who's running in the general, I think he'll move on up from there. It's going to be a tough race. I mean, Dunleavy's numbers are high, but if you keep asking the question, what are we going to get in a second term? What's the direction in the second term? What's the vision for the second term? What's the purpose of the second term? Why do you want to be governor again after the last 4 years? If you keep asking that question, and you you're going to get the deer in the headlights look. I think that's an opening for Charlie.
No, I would agree, and I think Charlie's got some groundswell support. I really wish that he had jumped into the race about 3 months earlier, but because I think he would have had a little bit more leg in the running room in the race. But I think that he is getting some groundswell support, and I hope that he's successful in nudging the needle and getting into that. That's the key here, right? The key for Charlie is getting into the top 4, because then you've got a comparative for Dunleavy, and I'm hoping that he's able to do that. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, you're not on the platform for November if you're not in the top 4. So that's certainly a key. And I'm certain there's going to be people watching the show who will sort of blow up at this, but I just don't see Kirka ever winning the governor's race.
No.
So if you're in the Mat-Su, I mean, I think the pitch to the Mat-Su is a practical one, right? Do you want Dunleavy, or do you want an alternative to Dunleavy that can win? And I think Charlie is that. I just don't see Christopher ever getting to a point under ranked choice, unranked choice, whatever. Ever getting to a point where he could win the general.
Well, and even I was told privately that even Kirka has said that initially about his run, that he's really not, he doesn't think he's going to win governor, but he just wants to he wants to be able to help fold the narrative and craft the narrative of what's going on, which is all well and good, but at some point you got to be like, that's not working, and you're acting as a spoiler for the rest of the race. All right, we're going to jump back into this and continue. Brad Keithley is our guest, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. Please like and follow, hit subscribe, ring the bell. Let's get it done. Here we go. Brad Keithley continues with us. It is our weekly top 3. We're in number 2. We're talking about what are the next steps in the Willow project. which has been touted as a big revenue generator for the state and more oil in the pipeline, et cetera, et cetera. But what does it really mean? We're going to talk about that right now. Brad, continue on with the number 2.
Well, the BLM, we talked about this on the show a few weeks ago about where Willow was. And the BLM, Bureau of Land Management supplemental EIS, supplemental environmental impact statement, is a critical step in this process. Willow had approval once under the Trump administration. It got tossed by the court, by the Alaska District Court. Rather than appeal it and go up and spend time doing that, both the federal government, both the Biden administration and Conoco decided not to appeal and to work on the supplemental environmental impact statement to try to get back to where the Willow project was under the Trump administration. This supplemental EIS lays the groundwork or the framework for where the project goes from here during the Biden administration. And what we talked about when we talked about this on the show last time was the concern that the BLM would approve the project, but approve it with such conditions and restrictions that it would be at the margin of an economic project for Conoco. And it's not just does the project make money, it's does the project make money in a way that's competitive with Conoco's other projects. Remember that the Conoco that exists now is different than the Conoco that existed 2 years ago.
Right.
When we were at this process. Conoco is a lot more focused on shale oil these days. It's made major acquisitions in Texas of Texas companies and Texas producing areas, and is really much more a shale company than it used to be. And so when Conoco is looking at its investments, it's comparing investing the next dollar either in Alaska or in shale oil development down in Texas. And shale has a lot of advantages. It's a shorter cycle. You get your money out faster. It's less expensive in the sense that you don't have to spend as much money up front to develop oil. It's sort of a manufacturing process. You just go drill the next well and the next well and the next well, as opposed to have to develop all of the infrastructure that you do with an Alaska project. Alaska project is a lot longer term project. So it's the question is the approval that BLM is likely to give or will give the Willow project, is that going to make for an economic project, an economically attractive project for Conoco? And the answer is we don't know yet. What BLM did on Friday was outline 5 alternatives without yet picking the alternative with the conditions that they will approve. These 5 are now open for public comment again over the next 45-day period. That may be extended a little bit, but are now open for public comment before the BLM makes its final decision on what form of project it's approved for Conoco. The 5 options ranged from full approval for everything Conoco asked for, the big project that it asked for, to no approval of anything, the no action option, and then the other 3 were sort of at various ranges between those two. The new one that the BLM outlined was a significantly cut back project. The new option that BLM outlined was a significantly reduced footprint for the project. It didn't approve all of the pads, drilling pads that Conoco had asked for and that were approved in the original Trump administration approval, and restricts the footprint quite a bit, as it was described in the Anchorage Daily News article, which is a good summary of it. BLM highlighted one new development alternative in the draft environmental review that it said would reduce Willow's potential footprint. The proposal would remove 2 of the 5 proposed drill sites from consideration, including eliminating the northernmost proposed drill site and associated infrastructure in a special area that's inside MPRA. BLM expects that under this alternative, ConocoPhillips would need to give up significant lease rights it acquired in the special area. The proposal includes a possible fourth drill site out of the 5, a possible fourth, but approval of that would require an additional environmental review process under federal law. The statement said. So what the Biden administration is trying to do is find a middle ground for them politically, a middle ground for them that's between the no action that the environmental community wants and is pushing and is screaming about, and the full 5, the big Conoco, the full Conoco project that was approved under Trump, and that Senator Murkowski and Senator Sullivan and others are pushing the administration to approve. They're trying to find a middle ground between those two, and the question is going to be whether the middle ground they ultimately come to, as I say, is going to be economically attractive for Conoco. What the environmental community would hope is if the Biden administration is going to approve anything, it's going to be something that the Biden administration can claim they approved, but Conoco finds less economically attractive than its alternate developments.
Right.
So,
I mean, they've got to look at it in its totality. How much to maximize the profits, to maximize what we need to do to make it economically feasible, we need the 5 different drilling sites. But now that they've reduced it down to 4 or 3, then now is it really even feasible to kick off the whole thing at all? I mean, and again, you hit the nail on the head. This is Biden seeking that political middle. This is about politics. This is not about energy. This is not about sustainability. This is not even about environmentalism. This is about politics.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. I mean, and what's driving it is the desire to approve something which helps support Senator Murkowski, because Senator Murkowski can then say, look, there's a benefit to me, working with the Biden administration on certain issues. The Biden administration works with us on other issues.
Right.
The Biden administration wants to achieve that, but the Biden administration doesn't want to go so far that they lose the environmental community on the other side. So it's an interesting process to watch. They've got this middle, what some are going to say is this middle ground outlined there. We've got the 45-day comment process, and then BLM takes all those comments into consideration and makes its final decision. We aren't there yet in terms of the final decision. If the Biden administration is really politically attuned over this, if they're really driving at it, what they may do is come out with a decision before the election so that it supports Murkowski, but with a decision that Conoco can't turn around fast enough in terms of their decision on the economics, and we don't find out whether it's a real project, whether what they approved was enough to get Conoco to go forward until after the election. So it's a process that's still playing out, but a very important process from the standpoint of Alaska in terms of oil production on the slope, and to some degree revenues. Willow is less important than Pikka from a revenue standpoint because Willow's on federal lands, and so the royalty goes in accordance with federal law, very little of it to the state. We get production tax off of the production, but we don't get the royalty. Pikka will get both royalty and production tax. So from a revenue standpoint, Pikka is more important, but from a production standpoint, keeping the pipeline operating and all that sort of stuff, and to some degree from a revenue standpoint, Willow is important as well.
Number 3, the weekly top 3, down to about 4 minutes here. I tried not to gag as I got past the headline. In turbulent times, Alaska needs a leader as governor. An opinion piece in the ADN from Al Bolea talking about how Bill Walker is the only choice of any blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, Al Bolea is a guy I respect. Al Bolea used to head the pipeline operations for BP Alaska. He's a consultant and a lecturer and a professor on the issue of leadership and how you identify leaders and how you develop leaders, and somebody whose readings or whose writings and discussions I've followed for a long time and have a lot of respect for. Except in this case. So Al writes his column in the ADN op-ed about leadership, and and analyzes Walker in terms of leadership, and finds him the leader that Alaska needs, as you say, and as the headline says, for turbulent times. But this is sort of classic, right? He's leading us where? I mean, it's not just is anyone a leader? It's the question of where he's leading us, where he proposes to lead us to. The thing that Walker has not addressed, that I've seen, and I've tried to follow closely, the thing that Walker's not addressed, at least to my satisfaction, in any part, is what his answer is for fiscal policy going forward from the revenue side. I mean, he's coming out with all these criticisms of Dunleavy and Dunleavy's vetoes, the bare minimum of vetoes that we had in this budget. He's coming out with all these criticisms of Dunleavy and Dunleavy's spending policies, and where Walker would spend that Dunleavy didn't, and
right
policies Walker would. But how's he going to pay for it?
We know how he's going to pay for it. He's going to take the entire permanent fund. That's how he's going to pay for it.
But he doesn't say that. He doesn't say. He tries very carefully to avoid that, and in doing so, he avoids saying anything. So, from the standpoint of a leader, you want a leader to outline his vision, outline the full vision, not just the partial vision, not just the I'm going to spend here and spend there and spend there. You want to. I mean, fiscal policy is two parts. Fiscal policy is how are you going to spend it? What are you going to spend it on? But the second and equal part is how are you going to raise the revenues to support all that spending? And Walker is studiously avoiding the second. So I've got to disagree with Al on his assessment of Walker in this regard. I mean, a leader would tell you that both the good and the bad. He would tell you where from a fiscal policy standpoint, where am I going to spend? What am I going to support? What are my spending policies going to be? But equally, he would say, how am I going to raise the revenues? Who's it going to affect? Why is my revenue proposals better than anybody else's revenue proposals? How does it affect the Alaska economy? How do those revenue policies affect Alaska families? And Walker's just entirely
right,
as I say.
When he's highlighting a rate on the permanent fund as creating a more stable permanent fund, that's part of the problem right there. That's not leadership as far as I'm concerned. But, I mean, I'm not the expert on that. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. Thanks for coming on board, my friend. I appreciate it.
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
Folks, we're out of time. Hour 2 is dead ahead. Chris Story coming up. Maybe some phone calls, some discussions. We'll be back with more right after this. I mean, Brad, this whole thing, and again, I don't know Al Balia from a hole in the ground, but with all due respect to him, this is one of the craziest things that I've ever seen. Again, highlighting and touting the fact that he rated. That was one of the things that he says here. First and foremost, Bill Walker is courageous. He does not shy away from challenges, and he confronts issues head on. From policies making the budget and the permanent fund sustainable to expanding Medicaid to provide tens of thousands of people with health care. Yeah, how's it being paid for? Oh, the one is being paid for by the other. I see. We're going to continue. And all these pie-in-the-sky ideas all being made possible by taking from the permanent fund. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it's courageous. I mean, essentially the extrapolation of that is it's courageous to take money from middle and lower income Alaska families and let the top 20%, Al's well in the top 20%, let the top 20% escape any responsibility for those spending policies. Yeah, that's not courage, but Walker's trying to play in some sense, trying to play like his first administration didn't happen. Right.
He wants to have it both ways. I'm a proven leader who's done the job, but don't pay attention to anything that I did back then. I mean, right. I mean, that's what he wants. He wants both. He wants to cut both ways.
Yeah, and we're beginning to see. I mean, Al's is one of several. Adam Wool did an op-ed. It was in the Newsfinder. It may have been elsewhere in support of Walker. I mean, Walker's got this support group that's starting to roll out these op-eds about how great Walker is and how great the administration was. and how he's crazy. But it's all the top 20% spend, but don't make me pay for any of it. Crowd. I mean, Adam was in the legislature proposed cutting the PFD down to a 10% of the POMV.
Right.
And Al is doing what he's doing. It's you've got to look under the hood and see, the motivations of the people that are supporting Walker. And it's the same old crowd going down the same old direction. So, we started today's segment by complaining about Dunleavy and where would Dunleavy's second term go? What's the goal of the second term? Why are you running for governor? We sort of know why Walker's running for governor. He sort of answered that question, but it's the wrong answer. So it's we're not making much progress in terms of the candidates that we've talked about leading us forward to a better day ahead. Yeah, no,
it's definitely, like I said, the nightmare edition, the weekly top three. Dunleavy, Walker, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, it's insane. We really, I mean, my personal opinion is we got to do everything possible to get Charlie at least enough name recognition to be into that top four, so there can be a real discussion and a real debate, and there could be a counterpoint to Dunleavy, that people who are dissatisfied with him can at least have another choice. Charlie
came out with a good op-ed over the weekend. I think it was over the weekend. I saw it in the Peninsula. Maybe it was in other newspapers as well. He was talking about K through 12 education policy and really hitting hard on administrative costs, doing some analysis of how much of Alaska K through 12 spending goes toward administration versus the lower 48, and focusing on the fact that we're administration heavy. Up here, we don't put as much as a percent into the classroom. So Charlie's starting to get out there with some analysis and some discussion of fiscal issues that at least thus far looks fairly promising.
Yeah. No. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how things go out. I mean, here we are. We're 34 days away from the primary. And we'll see what comes of this very interesting, a poll for the legislature and a primary for the rest of everybody else pretty much at this point. But we'll see how it all goes out. Brad, final thoughts here before we let you go this morning. Anything else on your mind or things you're looking at, et cetera?
Well, I keep following. I mean, Willow's important. I keep following PICA. What we're waiting for on the PICA project is financing. I mean, Oil Search is continuing to, make plans around how they would develop, but they don't have the money. Santos hasn't made the financial commitment to bring that project forward. They keep talking about trying to find other investors in it. There's been no announcements of other investors. I mean, occasionally you see an article in the Australian press. Santos is Australian based. Occasionally you see an article in the Australian press about various companies looking at co-investing in the PICA development, but we haven't seen anything concrete about it. So I keep following every place I can to see if I can pick up hints of people actually getting serious about putting money into PICA. We need that.
Right.
It's a big project for us. So that's basically the other thing that I keep reading the daily press on.
Well, we'll keep our ears to the ground and our eyes open, and like I said, we'll start pulling even harder for Charlie to at least get into the top four, so that we can have another option when it comes time to election day, and we're not just stuck with the three that we. I mean, again, this whole Ivan Moore poll just kind of, where were the other ones, or were they just? It didn't even matter at that point, I guess, is the question. So we'll have to see. Well, I appreciate you coming on board and joining us, Brad. We look forward to talking with you next week, okay?
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
All right, Brad Keithley, our guest, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, and we'll talk with him again next week. Meanwhile, getting ready to dive into hour 2 of the Michael Duke Show. We'll see what this looks like here. And see what you guys have to say as we continue. Please subscribe and ring the bell. If you haven't subscribed and rang the bell yet on YouTube, do so. You'll get notifications that way when we go live if we can't get on Facebook. Let's jump into it. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Across the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator. Hello and good morning to you. It is the Michael Dukes Show, hour 2 of this Tuesday edition of the show. We just finished up with Brad Keithley and the weekly top 3 Nightmare edition. Yeah, it's oh man, it's good stuff. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to it on our podcast. Podcasts are available every day on Google, Castbox, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Google Play, the whole place. And, of course, on our favorite spot of Spotify. You can go out there and take a look at it and listen to everything. Download it, get it all set up and ready to go. So feel free to dial in and get all that done. We are going to be talking here in just a bit with Chris Story, the man from Homer. I have no idea what he is going to be talking about today. We'll get the full rundown from him here in just a little bit. But meanwhile, I wanted to follow along with what Brad was just talking about in these different pieces, and specifically this Ivan Moore survey that came out and was talked about in the Juneau Empire. Because it just really brought forward, to me anyway, it brought forward to my mind the importance of getting Charlie Pierce into that top 4 position. Charlie, obviously, I've made no bones about it. Charlie is my pick for the gubernatorial candidate because I think he's got the track record, and I think he's got the wherewithal and the knowledge to be able to be a effective executive, and I think that would be fantastic. But when you look at what Ivan Moore has put together in his polling on the governor's race, you realize that he is completely ignoring the potential of a 4th candidate to come in. He really only is ranking or talking about Dunleavy or Guerra or Walker. And so I don't know what the questions were in the poll. I don't know what candidates were offered to the various poll takers in this regard. But it just strikes me that when you look at this and you see, again, Brad was just talking about this, but I'll repeat it for those of you who missed hour 1 and are not members of the 6 o'clock club. It says here in this article in the Empire by Mark Sabatini, who takes most of his data here from the Ivan Moore poll. It says Dunleavy appears to have an easy path to a second term in a 3-way general election race, and would still prevail if one of his two presumed opponents dropped out to avoid the split. Now, that's fine, except for the fact that that's not what the new law says. The new law says that the top 4 vote-getters will be there. The top 4 vote-getters will be in this race. So, to me, this is a little bit disingenuous to talk about it this way. But if it was a 3-way race, Dunleavy would be favored by a 50.9% win in a 3-way race, with 26% supporting Guerra and 22% supporting independent Bill Walker. That being said, if Charlie Pierce is in there and is able to pull even 5 or 6% of the vote, then you've got a whole different situation. If Dunleavy is picked as the number 1 position for many people and Charlie is picked as number 2, then you would have a completely different scenario. Because then in the second round of voting, because nobody has achieved the magical 50% mark, now you would have a whole different track on this. And to me, this is, again, why it's important that we get Charlie Pierce enough name recognition to get out there. Somebody said in the chat room a little bit earlier, if Charlie was to get into the top 4, he absolutely has a good chance to win. I think some folks are supporting Dunleavy simply because they don't realize that Charlie Pierce exists. And I think that that's probably true. Charlie's got a huge following on the peninsula. And I think he's starting to get a following in portions of the valley. But what about Fairbanks? But what about, the more conservative parts of Anchorage? I mean, I think this is where we, as the grassroots supporters of somebody like Charlie, need to step up and really remind our friends and relatives that there is another choice. That there is another choice out there as well. So it's super important, super important that we get our names and get the names of Charlie Pierce out there and Edie Grunwald into the minds of a lot of these people. So, reach out to the Pierce campaign, see where he's going to be. If he's going to be in your community anytime in the next 34 days before the primary, do what you can do. Help support him. Get people to his rallies. Get people educated. Do all the things. Reach out there and get it done, because he has got to be able to get into that top 4 to be able to have a chance to counteract some of the things that Dunleavy is standing for and saying. That's pretty much the bottom line at this point. All right. I've got a line on hold, which I'm going to talk to here in a second. We got Chris Story coming up here in about 8-9 minutes. And then tomorrow on the program, Kelly Shabaka is going to be joining us, candidate for U.S. Senate. She'll be joining us in hour 2. On Friday, Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine will be talking with us about the SCOTUS decisions on guns and more. Let's go over to the phones here on the Satellite West call-in line at 907-433-3150 and see what these folks have to say. Oh, and they just hung up. I was just going to the phone line. Sad. That's very sad. I was just getting ready to go to the phone lines. And so the phone lines are open, I guess, is what I was saying. 907-433-3150. Christopher in the chat room said, I did a personal poll and no one I know had ever heard of Charlie Pierce. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, Christopher. That's what I'm talking about. You need to find out if Charlie is doing a meet or greet or is going to be somewhere meeting people in your hometown or your area. Now is the time to go. Now is the time to go out there and let them know and educate them on it and invite them to come along. Talk to those people that's never heard of Charlie and figure it out. Cliff says, as a member of one of the top 4 political parties, I resent the pollsters picking numbers. pollsters are going to do what pollsters do. And, of course, we don't really know. The question is always on the methodology, right? I mean, what questions are they actually asking to get the numbers or the ideas that they're then extrapolating out? But you're right. I mean, it is a little bit frustrating, and especially frustrating in light of the fact that we can't even see if this methodology follows the ranked choice vote. He talks about ranked choice voting in this article. They talk about ranked choice voting for the other races. They talk about the ranked choice and the effect of all four candidates in both the Congress race and the U.S. Senate race. But they don't. He doesn't talk about it when it comes to the governor's race, which kind of makes me scratch my head and go, what? It's a little weird on that. Let's go over to the phones and see what you have to say on the Satellite West call-in line at 433-3150. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello? Are you with me, caller? Oh, I'm sorry. That's me. I didn't push the button hard enough. Let me push the button harder. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Bonnie in North Pole.
Hello, Bonnie in North Pole. What's on your mind?
I know a lot about Charlie Pierce, but I know nothing about Grunwald. I know nothing about her at all. I've been allotted to meet and greets with Charlie Pierce, but she is never there. So how am I going to decide about it, about her? Do you know anything about her?
Oh, I know quite a bit about her. She is a retired military mom. She was a director in Department of Veterans Affairs. She's an activist for conservative causes around the state, and she's a heck of a nice lady. Have you gone out and looked at the website to look at her bio or anything else like that?
Yes, I've gone there and seen that. I've gone to Mr. Pierce's meet and greets. I've only seen her one time with him here in Fairbanks. So you really know nothing about her. When he was in here in North Pole, he was there. She's not.
Right.
How are you going to find in talk to the lady? I mean, I'm not. I like Charlie Pierce. He's a competitive guy, but you don't know anything about her if you don't hear her speak in person.
Well, she's been on the program a couple times, so and I'm sure we'll have her back on again. So you'll just have to tune in, Bonnie, and listen to it there, okay?
Okay, thank you. Have a good day now. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling in. I wouldn't expect the candidates to go to everything together. It makes more sense to divide and conquer, to split up the territories into 10 different things. Not that I really am voting for a lieutenant governor candidate, quite honestly. There's really only one important thing that the lieutenant governor does, and that is oversee the division of elections. So it's definitely interesting to see that, but I'm not so much worried about the lieutenant governor candidate as I am about the governor of who's going to be governor of the state of Alaska. But thank you, Bonnie, for your call. I appreciate it. All right, we're running up against the break. We're going to take it now, and we're going to be back. Chris Story, the man from Homer, will be joining us shortly. And we'll see what else comes about. How about that? The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Well, Brian's not wrong when he said for that reason alone it would be worth voting for Edie, since the fact that she would be in charge of the division of elections. And you are right on that. You are right on that faux show. We need to see more Charlie signs. Where can we get some, and who here already has some? That's a good question. I would assume that you can go out to the Charlie Pierce website, which is charlie2022.com, charlie-2022.com. And you can get some of the signs that they've got out there. I'm just looking to see. Yeah, they got the full thing on Edie Grunwald for Bonnie, former chair of the Alaska Parole Board, civic community leader, 31 years of the Air Force, retired to the rank of colonel. Yeah, she's doing some good stuff in there. All right. I smile every time I see her. She got such a great smile. Every time I see her, I smile. Anyway, you could find out more about how to get signs and connect with them and everything else, and what events they've got coming on. What's Charlie doing now? Saturday, July 16th, he's going to be at the Bear Paw Festival down in Eagle River. And then on July 24th, he's got a spaghetti dinner and an auction at Kreiner's Diner. That's what they've got so far listed on their site. So go out there and check it out. But Bear Paw Festival this weekend down in Eagle River. So after the parade, you could stop by and you could see him there. Okay. Charlie, I'll post that in the chat room so people can see it. But yeah, if I suggest that you reach out and get more people involved in the conversation. That's what I would do. All right, weekly top three. I was listening. I just got a text message. Sorry, I got a text message, and it said listening and wondering what your caller knows about Dunleavy's running mate, especially regarding elections. So that would be I guess that you're right. That would be a good counterpoint. So Bonnie, if you're still listening, what do you know about Dunleavy's running mate? I've totally forgotten her name. Oh my God. I've totally forgotten her name at this point. Wow. Okay. I guess that's old age for you. Anyway, one of the former members of his administration, oh my gosh, that's killing me. Now Dunleavy running mate. There we go. Nancy Dahlstrom. There you go. Nancy Dahlstrom. Wow. Whew. Yeah. Sometimes I worry about myself. Can't remember the name. So anyway, it's gonna be good stuff. So, but yeah, what do you know about Nancy Dahlstrom? Anything? We'll wait to see. Okay. Well, I guess we'll get Chris Story on the line because he's not calling me, so I guess we'll call him to make sure that he's awake and up and alive and ready to go this morning. We'll see if he's all ready.
Thank you for calling. May this message find...
Okay, so maybe now I got to go back and look. Is there something? Is he on top of the? I mean, it feels like Mondays, and he's there. We go. I was just starting to get a little worried, like maybe he'd forgotten about me or was still asleep. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I'm on top of the world.
Good. All right. Answer your damn phone. All right. Hold the line, my friend. We're going to jump back into it. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're 12 seconds out. Like and share, subscribe, ring the bell. The Michael Duke Show. Chris Story, our guest. Let's get to it. All right. Welcome back to the program, The Michael Duke Show. It is the Tuesday edition, which is one of our most hotly anticipated segments. I mean, for me anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, one of the most hotly anticipated segments is the weekly uplift or life coaching session or PMA boost or whatever you want to call it with our good friend, Chris Story, the man from Homer. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Good morning, Michael. It's smoky here on the bay, but it's on top of the world. And looking down from here, I'd say it's going to be an incredible day.
Well, don't feel too smug about all that smoke. Fairbanks, it looked like, I don't know if you saw the pictures up there, but it looked like 40 below in an ice fog in the middle of summer. It was thick and not delicious out there. So if you guys are getting a little bit of the hit, it's not nearly as bad as those poor folks up in the interior right now. Oh, man. So, my friend, what are we going to talk about today? What's going on?
Well, when you're in my line of work, when you're a real estate broker, at this point in time, at this juncture, if you will, we're constantly asked, how's the market? Are interest rates affecting real estate purchases? Are people still buying? What's going on with the market? And typically when we are asked, how's the market? Really, it's what we want to know individually is, how is my market? How am I being affected? Or how might my assets or my portfolio being affected by what's going on in the marketplace? And I thought it would be a good time to just sort of revisit this period of time that we're going through. It's a flux, if you will. We're always in a state of flux in all markets. But I thought this would be a really good time to just revisit the 5 tips that will help take you to the top and invest like a backyard millionaire. As we are, more than halfway through the year, how is our investment strategy going? Even if we're only maybe 6 months into what's going to be a 5-year plan or whatever, it doesn't matter, because there's only so much control you can have over it. But if you do these 5 things, if you behave this way, you can't help but win over time, even if you're a pessimist. Even if you're a pessimist, Michael.
Okay, so a little bit of self-promotion. I'm down with that. A little bit of backyard millionaire stuff. But I love it. We're capitalists. That's what we do. So, all right, 5 different tips on checking my investment strategy. Now, first and foremost, this is assuming I have an investment strategy.
Well, these are tips that will take you wherever you want to go in almost anything. So you look at it from an investment standpoint for real estate. You can look
apply
at these 5 tips.
Right.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
It is universal.
All
Absolutely universal.
Okay.
So, for example, the first tip is to always measure not your rate of return on investment, but your personal return on investment. And this could be absolutely universal, as I say, for any kind of investing or an activity or relationship, anything you want to measure based on not what should be a standard rate of return or what your neighbor's rate of return, whatever, it's yours individually. Because right now, people are looking at, just take real estate, for example, we're looking at a rising interest rates. And so people are locking in at close to 6.25, sometimes 5.75. We're celebrating, clicking our heels if we can get something sub 6 on a non-occupied, just on an investment property. But the idea is, how does the rate of return measure against what it is you want? What do you want out of it?
Right.
So I think, again, the yield from anything you do, the amount of effort you put into something, has to be measured against your own return versus what's expected, what society suggests, what the market averages are. It's irrelevant. What's your own personal return? What are you looking to get out of this? What will make it worthwhile? Just using real estate, staying on that for a minute, because I recommend everybody have something in the market, get something, even if you only are starting with some of these ideas we're going to talk about today, you start looking at it and looking towards it. When you measure what it is that you want out of something, when you measure your rate of return, it might be completely different than mine or that guy's. You may not care about making any monthly income, whereas this person over here needs it to immediately start yielding monthly income. So you have to measure it for your own self. Other people are just looking to park cash. Maybe you've inherited some money. You just want to park it somewhere, and you're not really so concerned if you've got equity immediately because you're going to hold it for 20 years. You just know that. So your own personal return on the And the same thing with books you read, classes you take, anything you do in life, you have to measure your own rate of return.
And I think this is rate of return on an investment of, I mean, we're talking about money in the terms of stocks or bonds or money spent on real estate, but also could be an investment of time, right? I mean, you could use this for interpersonal relationships.
Absolutely. Anything you want to do, any hobby in life, anything that you think is worth putting your time into, you have to measure the result of the return that you're looking to get out of it versus, again, what the market standard is or what other people expect out of their investment of time, capital, whatever, exercise. Some people that I know that are in the running community are constantly talking about how many, what their minute per mile is. I don't care. I don't know. I don't actually know how fast I run. I don't care. I do a certain thing for me, and I get the rate of return out of it that I'm looking for personally.
Right. Okay. So gauge your return on investment for whatever it is that you're investing, time, money, effort, whatever, and see what it is returning against what your expectations are, essentially.
Exactly. PROI, your own personal return on investment. And the second tip I would give you is this: enjoy the hunt. So again, if we're talking about investing, we're talking about building a portfolio of homes or properties, enjoy the hunt. I'd say education is all part of the process. So what you learn in the process, regardless of the outcome, should be enjoyable. Like I've made mistakes in the marketplace, and I look back and yeah, obviously there's, you can have a bruised shin over something, but at the same time, I enjoy every aspect of it. I enjoy the misses just as much as I enjoy the success because I've learned from those. So enjoying the hunt means also in the marketplace of real estate, for example, I just enjoy learning the market, enjoy learning the individual aspects of your market and what are things selling for? What did you expect it to sell for? What are rents doing in your area? Be curious is another way to express that. But enjoy the hunt because it isn't just sitting by the fire later with the pig on the spit. It's all about the hunt. It's being out there in the marketplace, whatever it is. And going back to running, for example, I enjoy the running. I'm not winning any awards. I'm enjoying the process. Enjoy the hunt is the second tip: to invest like a backyard millionaire.
All right. A shameless plug for the Backyard Millionaire, available on Amazon and iTunes, or Apple available on Amazon and Audible. There we go. Or at ilovehomeralaska.com. All right, continue. Sorry.
Now it just sounds like a commercial.
I know. No, really.
The third tip I would give you is to quote Bruce Lee, be like water, be flexible, be willing to just allow things to happen. M.R. Kottmeyer wrote a bunch of great books, but one of these got several chapters actually in all of his books talking about the art of letting alone. There's some things you just can't control. You control everything. And I think in the age of social media, we're given a bit of a ruse of the ability to control the outcome of almost anything because we can comment on it. We can engage on it in a very public way. And our opinions matter, of course, but at the same time, we're not going to have control over the outcome of these things. And we have to let the prevailing winds go and sometimes be flexible, be like the young sapling tree and just let things go by. Because if you're just too rigid, you're just going to break. So be flexible and roll with the times. This doesn't mean you sacrifice your principles, but if you get caught up too much in the outcome of all of these debates that are happening at any given time, you miss opportunities to both be happy, to enjoy the rewards of your investment of time or money. So you've got to be flexible, be like water, and yet with your principles, you can be as rigid as you want and need to be. But in your life overall, being flexible will help you immensely.
We used to call that semper gumby, always flexible. That was right. I mean, we're always flexible in any situation because, again, that's the only thing we can control is our reaction to whatever situation throws our way. That's good situations, you win the lottery, or bad situations, you get a bad diagnosis for health stuff or whatever. It's how you deal with it. It's how you react to it that controls your situation.
Yeah, great. Yes, exactly. And so when the pandemic first hit back in March of 2020, Tiffany and I had two investments lined up in the queue, and we put them both on hold. We said, We may miss them. We're going to pause these right now. We may miss them, and that's okay, but we don't know what the future holds. We paused a couple months later, put them back into the chute, closed on them, and we're happy. That's the kind of flexibility in investing that I think we also need to bring to relationships. Nobody's perfect. I think it's sometimes people are going through something, and a great question to ask is part of this flexibility is, what else could this mean? What else could this mean right now when this person's holding up a one finger salute or honking or just irritable or something else is going on in their life? Being flexible will allow our relationships to grow as well as investments. And then the fourth tip would be to buy and hold. I think we have I don't want to use this too pejoratively, but we have a get rich quick mentality, I think, in society in general. Yes, Michael, believe it or not.
Not in today with Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. Of course we don't have a get rich quick mentality. Of course we don't.
But buy and hold equals gold. So if you want to get rich quick, buy a lottery ticket. If you want a great long-lasting relationship with your investments, with family, with people, if you want to leave a legacy, you buy and you hold. I was talking to somebody recently who bought a whole bunch of stocks. He had no clue what he was doing back when he bought them. Not a clue, but he just bought companies that he thought were cool, and he's held them for now some 25 years and done incredibly well. And I asked him how often he looks at his portfolio. He goes about once a year. He just looks at it about once a year because it's on a hold strategy. So I see the same thing with relationships or almost anything worthwhile. It's for the long term. You're committed for the long term. There's no get rich quick out of a relationship or an investment that really ever pays off consistently over time. If the buy and hold, that equals the gold.
Right. Chris Story is our guest, the man from Homer. We're getting our life coaching lesson, which is the top 5 investment strategies for your life, both in financial investment and life investment. All right. What's number 5 then?
Your mindset. And it's allowing yourself to see you as you wish to be. So it's that be, do, have mentality. See it, visualize it. What you believe you can achieve. We've talked about this many, many times. But the truth of it is, if you see yourself as an investor, if you see yourself as an incredible life partner, spouse, whatever, then that is what you'll become. And so if we're thinking about informing a mindset that is relevant to what it is we wish to do, then that means we're going to be surrounding ourselves with people that are already ahead of us. We're going to be surrounding ourselves with coaches in different aspects of life. We're going to be reading the trades. For example, if you're interested in real estate, you're probably reading aspects of the Wall Street Journal. You're probably going to places like realtor.com and other websites and getting and garnering information, and from other sources as well. And it's curious. You're curious, and you go back to that enjoying the hunt aspect. Your mindset is seeing yourself as you want to be, and that's the way you get there faster, but you also get there with greater results and enjoy the ride, because if you don't enjoy the ride, what are you standing in the line for?
Right. Well, exactly. You've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy the ride. It's the journey, not necessarily the destination. We've talked about that in the past, right?
And some of the most successful people I know, Michael, have the least education, or formal education, I should say. They have the very minimal base formal education and have learned through reading, doing, and just asking questions like, I wonder if we can do this. And don't wait for the crowd to answer. That comes back to your own personal return on investment. Wonder if you can do something and then get going. Don't ask 10 people, because you might get 20 different answers. And some of us have failed at what it is you wish to do, in which case we're going to tell you our cautionary tale with all best intentions, but we're going to put a wet blanket on what it is you want to do. So I say just go for it. Your mindset is critical. And that could have been all 5 points, really could have just been your mindset, but that would have been boring.
Right. Way too boring. Way too boring. All right. Chris Story, these are the 5 life tips. And of course, these all kind of come out of his book, The Backyard Millionaire, which again is available on Amazon. I Love Homer, Alaska. You can get the audiobook on Audible, which has gotten some rave reviews, which I'm grateful for, and that's it's all good stuff. And again, applicable. I want to be clear here, applicable in both your financial life and just life in general, because we invest a lot. The one thing that we don't have any more of is time, right? You can't make any more time than what you've got. And so investing of time and effort into people should be held up to the same yardstick that you're looking at with your investment life.
Absolutely. And it's really more of a philosophy in my mind. Like, I'm giving a presentation later this week on the American dream is a golden shovel, not a silver spoon. It always has been. I think it's available. We often say, "Oh, home ownership is the American dream," and it really isn't. It's the right to home ownership. It's the right to pursue your version of happiness, whatever it looks like. So yeah, I'm all about that. And by the way, I have a totally free podcast called The Backyard Millionaire. So it isn't all about the money with me, Michael. For me, it's not shameless promotion. I feel a little bit like doctors who don't counsel their patients to get healthy and to get fit are doing a disservice. So to me, it's to their patients and to the world, truthfully. So to me, it's like, how can I not share this? How can I look at the world and look at the people that are succeeding in it and go, huh, I see look at this, look at all these success formulas and principles put to work right here.
Right.
Huh. Yeah, I'll just keep that to myself.
Well,
nope, I'm going to share it with the world.
Quickly, what does the podcast cover? I mean, just so folks know that they can go back and listen to the Backyard Millionaire podcast. What is that cover? Is it a weekly? Is it a bi-weekly, bi-monthly? What is it?
Yeah, a weekly podcast, just self-titled, the Backyard Millionaire. Like our most recent episode just dropped yesterday, How to Conquer Your Fear on the Road to Wealth. And we cover the 6 basic fears as outlined by Napoleon Hill. We talk about the concepts that you and I talk about here. How the first episode was kind of fun. It was how $10,000 became $250,000. So thoughts, philosophy, but basically on health, wealth, and prosperity. That's the aim of that free podcast. But essentially, like I said, I look at this as a doctor who sees somebody making huge mistakes in their life, but I don't want to interrupt them. I'll just let them go about and I'll write a prescription later. Don't worry about it. I feel like I've got to interrupt as many people as possible with this idea that the golden shovel's in your hands and it's up to you. And as you see people succeeding and failing out there in the world, there are things we can learn from both. And I say we talk about it and be as transparent and open with each other as we can be.
Chris Story, you can find him at ilovehomeralaska.com. He's got books up on Amazon, on Audible. There's a multitude. He's got a handful of books up there. He's working on 2 more. He's got his own podcast, the Backyard Millionaire Podcast, which you should be able to find wherever podcasts are found. And what your new books that coming out quickly?
Well, yeah, November. Yeah,
November. Okay,
I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah.
All right, you'll keep me in the loop. Chris Story, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming on board and joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Folks, we're out of time. We got one more segment. We're going to open up the phone lines. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. That's good stuff. Good stuff from Chris Story. Buy and hold. The buy and hold strategy. I bought stocks 20 years ago. I've never bothered to look at them. Lo and behold, holy cow, I didn't realize that I was a millionaire, kind of thing. That's what you like to see, for sure out there as well. All right, some housekeeping. What do we got here? We got 33 people watching the video right now. We've had upwards of almost 60 this morning. And we have 8 thumbs up in the chat on the YouTube page. 8 out of 33 of you. This is where I shame you. Shame you. Just click the little thumbs up. How hard is that? How hard is that to click the little thumbs up and to share the video to Facebook? If you click the share button and choose the Facebook button, I'm doing it right now. I'm sharing my own show. That's self-aggrandizement right there, my friend. Self-aggrandizement right there. I just shared my own show to my own page. Look at that. So 30 of you in the chat room, there ought to be at least 15 or 20 likes on that. Or dislike. If you want to click the dislike button, click the dislike button. It'll show that you're at least interacting with something. So now 9 of you. 1 of you has gone ahead and clicked it since I said something. This is why we can't have nice things. This is why I can't get 1,000 people to subscribe to the channel. I got 3,500 followers on Facebook, but I can't get 1,000 people to follow me on YouTube because difficulties. That's what it's all about right there. All right. I did. It was me. Debbie, Michael, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate that. All right. Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay. Well, I'm number 9, says Michael. So he even counted, he even tracked his number. Number 9 on the whole thing. There's another 20 of you who are basically like, I can't be bothered to do that. What did I win? How do I do that? I don't know. There's a thumbs up somewhere on the, I don't know. Should I look to see what it looks like on YouTube? I have no idea what the show looks like on YouTube. I guess I'm not a subscriber to my own page, so I can't, I suppose I should try and subscribe to my own page just to see what it looks like. Can I see what my channel top for videos? It's live. Where is the live chat? I don't know, quite honestly. Let me look. I'm looking right now. To see description. Let me just go to the video. Am I in the video? I'm in the video. I think I'm in the video. I am in the video. Okay. I never use YouTube for stats for nerds. Somebody who just clicked, I know how to do it on the Facebook. I know how to do it on the website, but I'm not sure. Oh, there you go. Just tap the screen. If you're on your phone, tap your screen and there's thumbs ups and thumbs down over to the left. If you just tap your screen to where you can see the pause button, on the bottom left is the thumbs up, the thumbs down, and the share button. I don't know. What is that? No, I don't want to. Okay. All right. That's fine. And then I don't know how to get now I've lost the comments. Anyway, go check it out. There you go. I'm going to close that. Anyway. Okay. Click off the chat and there it is, right under the title for the day. You can also watch it on the TV, but there's no chat that way. You should be able to see the chats on the TV. There's just got to be a setting for you to be able to see the chats on the TV. I did not get notified on Facebook this morning. I'm number 12, says Kara. Well, that's because Facebook wouldn't. I mean, just to give you guys an idea of what that looks like, let me show you what this looks like right here. You see all those purple boxes? That's the number of times I tried to start the show this morning. All those purple boxes are the number of times that I tried to start the show this morning so that we could get the Facebook on. Didn't happen. Just didn't happen. Over and over and over again. So, all right. You could turn on chat on the TV. Yeah, you can. I know because I have watched live streams on YouTube on my TV and seen the chat at the same time. So I know it's possible. Okay. Let me close that. It's still running. My phone is still running the video in the background. All right, folks, that means that we are getting close to it. We're going to open up the phone lines. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based. Free-thinking radio. Back with more. Here we go. Like and share. Okay, welcome back to the program. One final segment of the show for today. And why not find out where you're at? I mean, let's do our own little informal poll here. Since Ivan Moore is going to do the three-way race, Dunleavy, Walker, and Guerra, why don't I just presuppose that Charlie makes it into the race, and now how do you rank everybody? How do you rank everybody that's on that ballot there? If it's Pierce and Dunleavy and Guerra and Walker, how do you rank them in your mind for this ranked choice voting thing? 907-433-3150, the Satellite West call-in line at satellitewest.com. Give us a call and tell us where you stand on these candidates. I mean, would you vote for Dunleavy if he's? I mean, obviously, if there's only three candidates, which one am I going to choose? Well, I guess the least offensive of them all, the lesser of all evils. And if it's just the three of them, Dunleavy, Walker, Guerra, then yes, you're right. I would have to pick Dunleavy simply because that's my only choice. But if I have a fourth choice in there, if I have Charlie Pierce in there as my fourth choice, guess what? I've got my number one pick. And Dunleavy would be number two. And I don't know. I might rank the other two. I don't even know at this point. I might rank all four, or I might just rank the top two and then quit. I just don't. I haven't decided yet. So what about you? Where do you take a stand on this? What is your position on on that ranked choice? How do you what are your thoughts? 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150 to call in to the Satellite West call-in line. Don't forget also, of course, you can always drop me an email. The email address is me@michaeldukeshow.com. me@michaeldukeshow.com is the email address if you want to send me an email. I'd love to hear what you have to say. In the chat room right now, it's Pierce and Dunleavy, no others, said Jen. Michael says, I can't conscientiously rank those two commie buffoons. Okay. He says, Charlie and Dunleavy, that's it. All right, so, I mean, you're only going to rank two out of the four, which I guess is fine, except for, of course, that if you get into a third round of voting, your vote is exhausted, your ballot's exhausted. And why they had to complicate it, I don't know. But this is just where it's at. So do you vote defensively? I'm definitely ranking the red in that regard. I think that's one of the more clever word associations that the Republicans have come up with in the state is to rank the red. But if you've got two red candidates and then a blue candidate or purple or whatever Walker's calling himself, whatever color he's calling himself, then do you rank all four or do you just stop? Do you just stop? I know I've heard many people say, I'm just voting for one, which is good, except what happens if, for example, you vote for your one, which would be Charlie Pierce, and or Mike Dunleavy, and they don't make it in that first round of voting. Then what do you do? That's the question. Let's go over to the phones and see what you guys have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? We'll start.
All participants are muted.
Sorry about that. We'll start off over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. This is Brad from Fritz Creek.
Hello, Brad. What's on your mind?
Well, two things. To answer your question, Charlie Pierce, and Charlie Pierce. But I'm on the Kenai Peninsula.
Right,
so
you are the Kenai Peninsula.
Biased.
Well, make sure you don't rank your. Make sure you'll screw up your ballot if you vote for it 3 times. So go ahead.
What's really on my mind this morning are two political ads I've heard on your show this morning, and I'm disappointed in one and not surprised by the other. One from Nick Begich and the other from Bill Walker, and both of them are challenging their challengers, and I'm really disappointed that, from Nick Bagage's commercial, because he's putting down Sarah Palin, and of course Bill Walker is challenging Mike Dunleavy.
Right. But, you're saying challenging, you mean going negative, right? After you're saying they're negative ads against their other candidates, is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I don't like that kind of,
I think that kind of turns
people
off.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think it kind of turns people off. I mean, highlight what you can do and what you've done or what you're going to do. I don't think you necessarily have to go after everybody hammer and tong like that. I agree with you, Brad. I think that's always a mistake to go negative in that regard. And
both of those ads are very negative.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out to the electorate. Thank you, Brad, for your call. I appreciate it. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Randy in Fairbanks.
Randy, quickly, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Oh, I guess at this point anyway, I'd probably put Dunleavy as number 1, and Charlie Pierce as number 2, and Bill Walker's number 3, and Guerra is number 4 is probably how I'd do it. The only bad thing about Dunleavy, in my view, is that he wants to put the PFD into the Constitution. That's a terrible thing, but that's just talk. Everyone's got the freedom of speech. The real evil would be an actual legislator that would vote to put that into the Constitution in a constitutional amendment. If Charlie Pierce was a little more clear on how he felt, if he came out, for instance, against definitely putting it in the Constitution, it might switch number 1 position. I'd put Bill Walker number 3 over Guerra, because Guerra seems like just pure left-wingism to me. At least Bill Walker, I've always admired what he did in 2016, sacrificing his political career for the sake of providing cover for the legislature when he vetoed half the PFD in 2016. I mean, I know a lot of people got mad about that, but that's what makes him such a hero to me in that instance. But everything else, not everything, but some things he does is just too left for me, like expanding Medicaid. So I'm not going to vote for him, but except maybe number 3. But that's
right.
my ranking.
Well, I appreciate that, Randy. I mean, I think most people would disagree with your position on the taking of the PFD. I think that is his bellwether moment, and I think he failed, and I think that's why most people don't admire him. In fact, that was why he was voted out. I think you'd see that most people, that's why I only got 2% of the vote or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's a tough one. But thank you for your call and your thoughts on that, Randy. I appreciate it. Tomorrow on the program, Kelly Shabaka is going to be joining us in Hour 2, working on a candidate for Hour 1 as well. We'll continue then. Don't forget to check us out at MichaelDukeShow.com. If you want to get all the info on the broadcast, check us out on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitch. We'll see you tomorrow, my friends. Be kind to one another. Love one another. Live well. We'll see you then. All right, my friends, don't forget, you can help support the show by becoming a member of the Common Sense Corps. That's our Cool Kids Club. Our Cool Kids Club. Come on in and be part of it. Help us out. Support the show. It's like the fan club. You can find out more about it at patreon.com/Michael Duke Show, or just go to michaeldukeshow.com and click the Join the Corps banner right at the top of the page. That's the way to do it. All right, my friends, thank you for coming in and joining us. We will see you tomorrow. TTFN. Ta-ta for now. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.